and hopefully build the wealth that you're able to not have to trade your time for money. And that's kind of like the goal, right? It's not about being able to buy yachts and being able to fly to Bali and post about it every single weekend. That, if you love to do that, it's great. But I don't think that's the goal. The goal is to not have to trade your time for money. So understand, when we're doing personal finances here, and we're talking about, hey, you, we're back here in the channel. We're trying to, as always, here, just spreading some thoughts and ideas. And again, you can take it as a grain of salt, and just kind of figure out eventually what your goals are and what are you trying to basically build in your life. I think life is, I've always looked at it like, as they say, you want to be playful and want to enjoy the ups and downs, and just build, right? And just like anything else, if you build something, sometimes it falls down. You start over. It's not a big deal. You enjoy the experience and the fun. But one of the things that I've been seeing now with the market and all the news stuff like that, things are kind of changing. The tide is changing. And if you know anything about anything that you invest in, there's gonna be some tides, high and low. So you just gotta get the emotions out of there and hopefully invest for the long term. Whether what your strategy is and what you do is fine, but besides the point, I wanted to just hit that real quick. I was thinking about it today. Once you start educating yourself, and I say educating yourself meaning like you actually start picking up some books, or you start researching articles, even watching videos here on YouTube or any type of social media platform, and you follow some type of individuals that have kind of the same priorities, or really want to educate themselves in their personal finances. There's a lot of fitness influencers, there's financial influencers, well, finances influencers. There's entrepreneurial influencers that, well, are showing us, if you want to go out there and make money, flipping houses, right? Trading stocks. It's a lot of ways, a lot of influencers that I've seen that are promoting or giving education on what they do for a living. And that's education on yourself as well. So obviously you want to verify your resources, right? You don't understand, you don't know where the individuals might come from, but just the fact that you're educating yourself and you're learning different things that you haven't learned up until now, right? And I think the more you educate yourself as far as your personal finances, I think the better off you are as far as understanding just personal finances in general. And it's a learning process, right? I think it's not nothing overnight. Everything always obviously takes its own time. It's having patience and understanding that you're still growing and learning, and there's never really like a destination. You're growing today. Right now, if you're watching this video, you are years ahead of somebody that hasn't watched anything regarding to the finances. If you're watching this, you probably are a lot better financially than me. What you're basically just the word as they say is you kind of just reaffirming your beliefs and understanding that what you're doing is actually working and it's actually something you feel good about. Everybody has their own personal opinions, but what I notice is that the more I get more educated and more knowledgeable in my personal finances, I watch a lot more personal finances individuals showing and talking about the differences of certain strategies and plans you can do for your future to build wealth. At the end of the day, it's all about you're looking at yourself 10, 15, 20 years. We're not talking about overnight. Like I said, I'm not a millionaire. I'm not rich by any means, but it's about building yourself from the bottom up, as they say, right? And I feel like a lot of minorities and communities that are marginalized, and obviously people of color, we don't really see those type of role models, or we don't really see that as like a I would say a faith or hope in the situation. We only see obviously the individuals that are not living in our neighborhoods, right? All the books that I've read, I would say most of them. Obviously, I gotta actually look for individuals that like look like me or marginalized or even people of color, because there's not really a lot of them out there promoting or even educating personal finances. And something that in our communities are really, I think, are left out, which I feel that really makes me even more motivated every day to go on here and just really shine light on some things that we could probably do for ourselves that we kind of know it, but we don't take action on it because we don't have any hope for ourselves, and who are we to, you know, ever accumulate anything? And I think one of the things that I tapped in today when I was watching one of my videos, if you watch him, it's called Bob Proctor. And all the books that I've read, one of the most, I think, powerful books that I've read within the last 2 years, 3 years, I would say, that I was actually referred to by watching another video. So I was watching a lot of videos at that time. I was a janitor, and I know this this has nothing to do with my personal finance, but let me just give you a quick detail. I was a janitor, and I was like, damn, I gotta learn things. I gotta improve my life. I'm like, I don't like where I'm at, and I was watching a video, and the guy was talking about you gotta change your mental state and your mindset on most of the things in life. And there's a book that he recommended. It was called Psycho Cybernetics, by Dr. Malcolm Gladwell or Malcolm Maltz, something like that. I don't know the exact author, but it's called Psycho Cybernetics. And that book, if I had to recommend any book before for personal finances and for like just anything you want to do in life, but personal finances, especially your wealth and health and anything else that is correlated to a better life, is that book, because it's one of the things that it talks about. One of the main points is the way you view yourselves, or your image, your personal image of yourself, really reflects on everything else outside of yourself in life. Like even how other people treat you, even how how maybe with the careers you hold, the luck you might have in your life. Like, I'm so lucky. It's all about how you view yourself, your image, and how you really think of yourself. And that really changed my mind, because I think growing up in communities where we didn't see a lot of individuals controlling their personal finances or really coming out the hood, as we call it, unless they were like lottery winners, or like they got a crazy offer of maybe athletes. Their parents had a successful business already, and he left the neighborhood. But we really rarely had any role models that really came back and told us how to manage our personal finances, and that we have hope. That it doesn't mean that just because you grew up in a certain neighborhood, or you're a certain area, or you're given a certain amount of dealt with certain cards, that you're not going to be able to have a better life moving forward, or eventually grow. It's not permanent, right? That it's a temporary situation, and you have everything you need to basically to make it happen. You don't need anything outside of you. You don't need you don't need like to go out to saviors and make sure they help. You can do it all yourself, but you have to commit to yourself and commit to the process, and really have discipline, and just move, go with the game itself. And that's the whole thing, right? It's like it's a process, but it's having the patience and the discipline and the goals that this is where you want to be. And obviously you're going to become a better person for it. It's not just the end game, or the end, or the situation where you want to accumulate all this future wealth. It's who you become as well, right? You have to learn to have more compassion, to be open-minded, to look at everything in different ways, not just have a narrow-minded situation, because that's how you get stuck in certain situations where you are, hard-headed and you don't succeed. But it's about also viewing that sometimes if everybody's doing one thing, you want to step back and be like, okay, how can I analyze this, and why is this happening? But it's something that I think personal finances is not really talked about in our I guess again urban communities where I grew up at. And we're talking about Latinos, minorities, right? All minorities. Obviously Latinos, African Americans, everybody that lives in these communities that are obviously low income and not really given the attention that we need. It's not really educating us in none of those things. They just give us like basically here's some help. Hopefully you can live off of this and buy your food and groceries, and you have free education, and you should be able to succeed. It's not really giving you any type of education to, like, there's a saying that they say, you can give the man the fish, right? And they can eat, for a couple of days. But if you could teach them how to fish, they will never go hungry, right? Because now they can find their own fish, and they're not depend on you to give them the fish. And I think that's one of the things we're missing in our neighborhoods, where the individuals are not giving us, they're not teaching us how to fish. They're giving us a fish, the temporary situation where they're if you're hungry, you got food. If you need assistance, they give you assistance temporarily. but how about, permanently for the future? And that's where I think I want to bridge that gap, and I want to understand that we can control that. We can kind of hopefully minimize the damage and build our future wealth. And that all starts with us, right? And that all starts obviously with our future of, and now in the moment of investing for our futures. Because the only way, obviously, that wealthy individuals grow their money and their wealth is by investing it, right? Money, unfortunately, that's the only way money grows. You can't just sit money somewhere and expect it to grow. It needs to be invested. It needs to be working for you. And I think one of the hardest things for us to kind of, I would say, grasp is that in order for us to grow our money, we have to put it to work. We want to look for deals. We want to look for businesses. We want to look for these things. We want to look for opportunities, and it's great. But when your money's working for you, it has a mind of its own, right? And it attracts all these other gains and all these others monies, because individuals are looking for money, so you have the money, and then money grows. But at the end of the day, we want to learn how to eventually start saving, and then eventually start investing. And the faster we can do that, the faster our money grows. And that's why I think I wanted to make a personal finances a little bit more of a center of attention, because the only thing we can control is our personal income, right? And how we spend it, right? You can't control how much you're gonna make, but you control how much you're gonna spend. So you make a certain amount of money, then you have to kind of understand how you're gonna spend it, and that difference is where you want to save and invest. And it's very easy for us to get caught up where what you want to get this, you want to get that. We have so many things we want to acquire, but looking at it from a grand scheme of things, you're sacrificing your temporary, I would say, satisfaction for the long term freedom for your time, because you're not really what you're buying back is your time. I've heard a lot of times, and I think it's true. You're buying back your time with your wealth, in the sense that you don't have to trade your time for money eventually. Obviously, we all start off doing that. That's what we're doing. We trade our time for money. And your goal is eventually not to have to trade time for money. You trade your time for things that you want to do. You want to give back value to a community, to a lot of things, right? I think eventually that's what I would love to do as well. Just be able to use my time to give back to the communities that I came from, and be able to give value to those younger individuals that might not see a light of hope, right? They might think that this is where they're going to be stuck at forever, and not knowing that they can control their futures by investing in themselves, investing in the futures. This way they can eventually build wealth for themselves. And again, if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? It's about discipline, like we say, and about having that mindset that you're in control. And this is a great image, a great line I got from Bob Proctor. He goes, you want to be the main character in your movie. You don't want to be like the extra. Basically, the extras, it's you're just like somewhere in there, and you're not really the main deal. You want to be the main character in your movie. You want to be the one you can control. Hey, listen, we're doing this, and you're the one controlling it. Life is happening for you and not happening to you. And I think the one way you can do that is by controlling what you can control. A lot of things you cannot control, right? A lot of things you cannot really foresee. But the way you move, I always said that the way you move is determines how you can dodge certain things. And what I mean by that is, if you're running into a large lump sum of money, or you're making great money and you're making great salary, and you're investing it, and you're diligently saving and investing it, then when you might not be making that money anymore, or you might not be able to have access to that, what transpires after that really shows how you were moving. So if you're still able to live off that money you saved and invested for a couple of months or a couple of years, that shows that while you were making this good money and you were doing things really well, you were actually saving and investing for your future. And that's why I feel that in times of like these right now, in times where it's a little bit they say it's a tough in this situation, individuals that were smart and diligent, doesn't affect them. And also it depends on how you believe about yourself as well, knowing that what we're sold every day, which is like fear of like, oh well, the economy and all these things. There's a lot of things happening that are bad. There's also a lot of things that happen that are good, right? A lot of individuals are seeing gains they never seen in their whole entire last decade. A lot of people are making money they haven't made in the last decade as well. So it's all about how we perceive it. And I think once you start changing your mindset, which I want to change that, I think the mindset of how we view building wealth and personal finances, then you can start to create some type of change for yourself and your life and your future, and hopefully build the wealth that you're able to not have to trade your time for money. And that's kind of like the goal, right? It's not about being able to buy yachts and being able to fly to Bali and post about it every single weekend. That, if you love to do that, it's great. But I don't think that's the goal. The goal is to not have to trade your time for money. So understand, when we're doing personal finances here and we're talking about building wealth, it's about eventually not having to trade your time for money. And I think if you are working right now certain jobs that you kind of don't want to be at, right? Most people, we do that because we need the money, right? We're not working there because, we are altruistic and we love to be doing something we don't love to do. Most of us, to be honest, a lot of us, especially us minority groups, especially Latinos and people of color and African Americans, all of us that are working jobs that the wealthy don't want to do, is because the wealthy don't have to do it, but we do, unfortunately, right? So we're trading our time for money. So you want to get to that point where you're not trading your time for money. And I hope that explains it. So let's get on it. Focus on your personal finances, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.